fairly good deal of information on them. They're still available. And in the 4 time zones in the US, if you would like some, write us. And even if you've gotten some and have handed them out, you can get more. We would like to send you more people who are handing them out. We want to supply you. So you can write us, same email, info@ebiblefellowship.org, and say you would like some of those cards, your address, name, address, and time zone if you know it. One other thing, we're looking for translators in some Southeast Asia languages like Vietnamese, Cambodian. And actually, if you speak another language, we could use you. We need people who understand the true gospel to help us in verification, in editing, reviewing material that we might hire a translator. You can hire translators in pretty much any language, but how are we going to know? How are we going to know if they did a good job, if they were faithful, if they got the nuances of certain statements within a study? We need people who know the language, who also know the truth. And we again, whatever, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish. Well, we have several Spanish, but we could always use more. Russian, Ukrainian, whatever language, we can use help. Our desire is a wide outreach. We are translating in several languages, and we want to keep that up and add to it. Okay, well, that's all the announcements for now. Let's go to the first person on the phone tonight. Welcome to our open forum program. Please go ahead with your call.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, everybody. Chris, can we take a look at a few verses? Acts chapter 1, verse 17 and 25, 26.
Acts 1. Verse 17. For he was numbered with us and had obtained part of this ministry. And then 25, 26. That he may take part of this ministry and apostleship, from which Judas by transgression fell, that he might go to his own place. And they gave forth their lots, and the lot fell upon Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles.
And can we take a look at Acts 8, verse 21?
Acts 8:21. Thou hast neither part, excuse me. Thou hast neither part nor lot in this matter, for thy heart is not right in the sight of God. And this, Peter was speaking to Simon, I believe. Simon, is he called the sorcerer? But yeah, anyway.
And last one is Acts 26, verse 18.
Acts 26:18. To open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me.
Okay, so the word lots, also in the other chapters, lot also includes the word lot, inheritance, or inheritance, or parts. So Can you are you is this spiritually telling that the lots signify uh someone who is trying to take part into the gospel?
Yeah, yeah. Like with Judas, he was one of the 12, and um, as it said, um, for he was numbered with us and had obtained part of this ministry, and we know that he he was like a son of perdition. He lost the part. Now, he was never truly within the kingdom of God. He was never truly born again and received the eternal inheritance or eternal lot of a child of God. Remember, the Proverbs tells us about lots. In Proverbs 16, we read in verse 33, the lot is cast into the lap, but the whole disposing thereof is of Jehovah. So, they would cast the lot in whatever way they did, and it would result in a decision. Um, for instance, with Jonah, when he was on board the ship, and they were wondering for whose cause is this storm come upon us, and they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. So the whole disposing thereof is of God, and that fits in with the gospel program, God's selection of the elect. It ultimately God chose certain ones according to his good pleasure. And he chose Jacob, and he did not choose Esau. And he made choice of the whole company of the elect out of billions of people, billions, presently 8 billion on the earth, and many billions that have lived and died. Maybe the whole history of the world, maybe there's been 15, 16, 17 billion people. There's been a lot of people, and yet the greatest number that the Bible tells us of concerning those that are saved is 200 million. And 200 million sounds like a lot. It would be a pretty big country, but um, in a world of 8 billion, that if you have 200 million, that means 7 billion and 800 million were not saved. And then you add all the billions of the past. And so it's truly a remnant out of the whole of mankind that God saved. And that's why he uses he refers to the elect as few. Many are called, few are chosen, few are elect. And and so Judas is basically like the corporate church, and I believe he was a figure of the church that seemingly outwardly for a time had part. You know, you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell. Um, so many said they were Christians, and God said, let them grow together. But it's at the time of the end, the Lord makes it very clear that there were many tares amongst the wheat of the church, and and uh, and so the lot, the part, the inheritance would fit in with salvation. Remember what God said to Daniel in Daniel chapter 12, um, just a few verses after saying, seal up the word to the time of the end. None of the wicked will understand, but the wise will understand. And then in verse 13 of Daniel 12, but go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. The promised land, the land of Canaan, was divided by lot to the tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel, pointing, the promised land, God's promise to Abraham, I'll give you the land for an everlasting habitation. It's an eternal promise. And so it represents the new heaven and new earth. And Israel being given the land. This is your section for the tribe of Judah. This is your section for the tribe of Benjamin. It pictures God dividing the eternal kingdom of heaven by lot to spiritual Israel. And each one of us, it's really a nice thing, isn't it? When we read of how God gave Israel land for this tribe, your family of Judah. You will have this section, and within the land of Judah, each family would get their lot, their particular inheritance. You'll have this field, you'll have this upper spring, you'll have this, you'll have that. And it really gives a sense of being a part of the land, or having ownership, and you can build your house. It's your family's land. It is your land. God has given it to you. And that we don't have that today, for the most part. We manage, and a lot of people don't even manage to do it, but many people do manage to purchase a lot and have a house on it, or a few acres, and you're always paying for it. Most of us, and that's it. And then we die, and we've lost the boat. With the new heaven and new earth, the figure is God's going to give us an eternal habitation, and we will live on it. And remember Isaiah 65, we'll build houses, and another will not inhabit. We'll plant vineyards, and another will not, gather the fruit or drink the wine of the vineyard. It's going to be ours, an eternal habitation. Of course, our eternal habitation is in God, but this whole idea of having a home, of having a place that's yours, and nobody can take it. Nobody's going to come. You haven't paid the taxes, and now we're going to seize your property. It will be the elect children of God's forever, and it's the gift of God. It's part of the abundance of eternal blessings that He's blessed us with.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing those good verses. And let's go to the next caller tonight. Welcome to our question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hey, Chris, how's that frog treating you?
I'm sorry?
How's the frog treating you?
The frog? Well, yeah, I guess it sounds that way. Not too bad, improving, getting better.
Sound better. All right, good. Can we go to Daniel 2:31 all the way till 44?
Daniel 2:31 through 44. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. The great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and has made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall rise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Thank you for reading all of that. What I'm thinking about this chapter, or at least the part that you've read.
Excuse me, you're kind of low. Is there any way you can?
One sec, I got it. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. That's
All
much better.
right, I had a Bluetooth on. All right.
Okay.
So, thank you for reading all of that. So what I'm thinking about what you've read here was Nebuchadnezzar is a picture of Satan, right?
Right.
So in here, God is in the first section of what you read is it's pretty much showing Satan's going to be defeated. That stone that was cut out of the mountain is Christ defeating Satan, and that stone I think actually becomes a mountain itself, right? Or the stone, that rock destroys the image in the first section that you just read, right?
Right.
So that's a picture of Christ destroying the kingdom of Satan in general. But then it breaks down after that, how it says that there will be let me see here. In verse 39, it says, and after that there shall rise another kingdom inferior to thee, which I think is Satan at the point of being bound. And then the next one is the third kingdom of brass, and shall bear rule over all the earth, which is when Satan is released into the Great Tribulation, and he rules over the earth and the churches. And the fourth kingdom is in the day of judgment, when he's being divided and broken. And interestingly enough, it says, how where is that? In verse 44, I believe it talks about how during all these kings' days, there's another kingdom being made, which is the gospel being built up over time, and eventually it rules and takes over after that fourth kingdom that's being divided.
Yeah, I don't think I can comment because it's been a while since I went through this, and I don't even know if I did some studies in Daniel too, but I don't remember going in detail through these verses.
Okay.
So yeah, it's interesting, and I can see some of what you're saying, but I really can't comment
Another
one way or
another
another.
how it talks about how the image has feet of steel and murky clay, right?
Mhm.
We have
Right.
feet of clay. That's men.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it actually says that in verse 40, 43, was it? And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. So basically, it defines the clay as men,
yeah.
uh, and that would be consistent with how God made man from the dust of the ground.
But does it also, but isn't that also, that verse also attaching itself to Satan?
Verse
Because it's the
43.
image. Yeah, because it's in the context, it's the whole context is Satan in this chapter pretty much, as far from what I think it is. Um, because it's um
Yeah, I really don't know.
okay.
Yeah, I can't comment.
Okay.
But
Alrighty.
thank you. Thank you for sharing this and your thoughts about it. And let's go to the next caller tonight. Welcome to our question answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hi, Mr. McCann. Could you go please to Psalm 37, verse 34, please?
Psalm 37:34. Wait on Jehovah and keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it.
Yeah, I'm sure you explained this verse before, but could you explain it again, please, and thank you.
Well, Psalm 37, um, is a wonderful psalm. We were just talking about our inheritance, and that's mentioned a few times. Actually, throughout the psalm, God is going back and forth. He'll make reference to the wicked and say they'll be cut off, and then he'll make reference to his people, and he'll say, like in verse 9, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon Jehovah, they shall inherit the earth. And that's stated, I think, at least a couple more times, and it's a heavy emphasis. The wicked will be cut off. Verse 28, for Jehovah loveth judgment and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever. But the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land. And the word land would be the same word translated earth. The righteous shall inherit the earth and dwell therein forever. And so when we get down to verse 34, wait on Jehovah and keep his way. And that's you know, God has been saying this for thousands of years to his people in all generations. Be patient. The Lord's patient. He was patient, long-suffering, patient, until he received the early and latter rain, as he waited for the precious fruit of the earth. And so he would speak to his people who were alive in generation after generation, and he would tell them, you need to wait. There's a need of patience. You have to wait. And of course, you know, sometimes we kind of see ourselves as, well, we rightly see ourselves as the last generation, but we kind of see ourselves and look at ourselves as poor us. Poor us. Well, a lot of saints, a lot of the people of God, um, they lived and died just having the promises, like Hebrews 11 says, without receiving them. And it also says that they without us should not be made perfect. Well, we will all be made perfect on that literal last day of Earth's existence, which is coming soon. And we have the privilege and the blessing of being alive at the time when God is bringing all things to pass, fulfilling his word. He has already completed his salvation program. He saved all the souls he intended to save. He's been faithful. He accomplished it. He completed it. That really should give us great encouragement, great hope. Well, if God was faithful to his word and saved everyone whose name was recorded in the Lamb's Book of Life, and you know, this was something that predates time in history, that goes back to the foundation of the world and was carried out over the 13,000 plus years of history up until May 21, 2011. The Lord watched over it and executed it and accomplished it, and without fail, he did not lose one, except the son of perdition, because the son of perdition would represent the corporate church and Israel before it. He did not lose one that the Father had given him. And he tells us that in John 17. And so here we are as we read Psalm 37 about eternal inheritance, inheriting the earth. The promise given to Abraham is basically reiterated here and emphasized, and the same faithful God who has fulfilled so many of his promises. He has fulfilled the salvation of the souls of all his people. He has fulfilled judgment beginning at the house of God. He has put into motion the final judgment of mankind that we're in the midst of. And so here we are waiting on the Lord. It's always the case. Wait on the Lord for him to complete everything. And so wait on Jehovah, keep his way. You know, that's the only proper way to wait. Christ is the way, Christ is the word, and we have to keep the word. We have to follow Christ, follow the narrow way, and that is, you know, what will take us into the new heaven and new earth. Well, it goes on to say, keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land, inherit the earth. Again, the Hebrew word translated as earth hundreds of times. He will exalt thee to inherit the earth when the wicked are cut off. Thou shalt see it. And remember in the Bible, The idea of seeing is very closely related to understanding, or seeing with eyes of understanding, eyes of faith. For instance, the abomination of desolation, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, well, have we seen it? Yes. Yes, we've seen it. Not physically. You can't see Satan. He's a fallen angel. Angels are spirit beings. Spirit beings are invisible. No, we never saw him visibly with our physical eyes, but we saw with eyes of understanding. Likewise, when God has brought the world into judgment, May 21, 2011, and we see Christ coming, that's another reference to this kind of sight. Matthew 24, verse 30, immediately after the tribulation, and then verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Well, did we see Christ literally on the clouds? Did we see him in bodily form? No. But we see him in the scriptures, in the commandments. The clouds identify with the commandments, according to Numbers chapter 9. And we see him. And compare, I won't go there, but compare Matthew 26, when Jesus told the high priest of Israel, well, I will go there, because I don't think I can remember it perfectly accurately. In Matthew 26, it says, and Christ is speaking to the high priest, and he's an unsaved man from everything we can read. Verse 64, Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said, Nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Did the high priest ever see that literally, physically? No, no indicator of that. But what did he see? Well, he heard reports. He heard Christ was risen from the dead. And where did Jesus go when he rose from the dead? To the right hand of God, the right hand of the Father. And he heard reports. The gospel was spreading. The followers of Christ were performing miracles themselves. And so he saw, through the hearing of these reports, the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. There was, I'm sure, reports that God was through with Israel. The veil of the temple was rent. The early Christians were teaching, you must come out of the nation of Israel, come out of the synagogue system of worship, and join the church, because God's judgment was on Israel, and that would be coming in the clouds. The commandments, that's the hearing the reports of the word of God. And it's the same thing here. When the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it. Take a look at Psalm 91. Psalm 91. And we read in verse 7, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made Jehovah, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. With thine eyes thou shalt see. Oh, well, that means physical eyes, right? Ephesians chapter 1, and in verse 18, verse 17 and 18, that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, may give unto you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened. See? Eyes of understanding. The word eyes is the word eyes. Just like in Psalm 91. You'll see with your eyes will see, make sure I quote it right. Psalm 91, 8, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. What is the reward of the wicked? Well, it's that reward when Christ comes, for the evildoer. It is the wrath of God. It is the destruction of the sinner. It is when the sinner's cut off. And that's what this is saying. When the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it. You'll see it. And we're seeing it today. We've seen it with the church, the wicked within the church, cut off, and bundled as tares for the burning. We know the door's shut. As soon as God shut the door of heaven, he effectively cut off all unsaved inhabitants of the earth. Now, we don't know who's who, because there's also a great multitude that the Lord saved, and that's why we can't say, well, everyone's cut off, and we can have hope. We can distribute tracts and hope, well, maybe this is one of God's elect, or maybe some in our family and neighbors. Yet God knows, and it's he fixed their eternal state. It's established. The righteous, the elector will be righteous still, and the unjust will be unjust still. There's no one at all in all the world whose spiritual condition will change since the date of May 21, 2011. It's fixed, just like the rich man and Lazarus. Lazarus in Abraham's bosom, the rich man in torment, and was tormented in the flame. There cannot be any passing over, no movement from one place to the other, because everything is settled, and that means that the wicked have been cut off. It's accomplished fact. It's done. But thank you for calling and sharing. And let's go to the next caller tonight. Welcome to our open forum program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hi, Chris. Can we take a look at Luke 13 verses 24?
Luke 13, 24. Strive to enter in at the strait gate, for many, I say to you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able.
And then can you also read Luke 16, 24?
Luke 16, 24.
Mm-hmm.
And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame.
And then finally, Hebrews 12, 16, and 17.
Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For you know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears.
I think you might have talked about this verse with Jacob and Esau. And Esau, maybe it was like after May 21. I'm not sure if you did a study on this, but I'm wondering if I just thought about this as the tie-in with his
I'm
It's
sorry,
too
you
late. They're
broke
seeking
up.
salvation, but it's too late.
Excuse me, you broke up a little bit. Can you
Oh,
repeat?
yeah.
I heard you may have done a study, but what after that?
I think you might have done a study on Esau or talked about it in the past about he's weeping after for the birthright. But I'm just wondering if it ties in with this idea of men seeking salvation when it's too late because he had given up his birthright and now he's wanting it.
Oh, yeah. There's there's a few examples, the Israelites in the wilderness after they searched the land for 40 days, and when they returned with the evil report, God judged them and said, you have to wander a year for each day that you search the land. And then all of a sudden, they they changed their mind and, oh, we'll go fight the people of the land. And Moses told them, don't go up. It's too late. See, once the judgment of God is pronounced, then typically that's when men want to do the thing that God originally commanded. But with the example in the wilderness with the spies and the evil report, no, there's a time where when you do the will of God, there's blessing. But after a people reject the will of God, and then God pronounces the judgment, and it was a judgment, he swore in his wrath. We read in some places that they would not enter into his rest, and their carcasses would fall in the wilderness over that 40-year period. Once he pronounces the judgment, then God doesn't. The door is shut. He doesn't go say, "Oh, okay, now you want to enter in? I'll open it up for you." No, the door stays shut, and same thing with Esau. He despised his birthright, and then came the time, and a time when Father Isaac was 120, and so that would point to fullness, complete fullness of time. It and also tie in with the time of the end, and it's time to give the blessing. And it turns out Jacob receives the blessing, the younger, and Esau doesn't receive the blessing. Then he's desirous of it and sought it carefully with tears. He wants it now. I guess it's according to fallen human nature. Tell someone you can't have it anymore, or even little children, okay, um, you don't want this. I'm going to put it away. As soon as you put it away, oh, I want it. I want it. Like, no, you had your time to play with it, and now we put it away. Well, God, he gets into this clearly in Zephaniah 2, where he he says in verse 1, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired, before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of Jehovah come upon you, before the day of Jehovah's anger come upon you, seek ye Jehovah, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment, seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of Jehovah's anger. That's very clear that before God's judgment, before the judgment comes, before judgment day comes, that's the time to seek the Lord. In Isaiah 55, seek Jehovah while he may be found. And there's a definite implication that a time will come when he'll not be able to be found. And it'd be one thing if God just sneakily, quietly brought Judgment Day on the world. Then people might say, oh, we didn't know. But he didn't do that. He, in an intense way, in a prolonged way, he had Judgment Day declared to the nations. And the message was all over the place. It was all over. It was done very publicly, very openly, and the world, billions of people in the world, heard the news, May 21, 2011, Judgment Day, exclamation point. And some people criticize that today, apologize. Well, don't apologize for that. It was Judgment Day, and God made sure that it was declared matter-of-factly because of a verse in 1 Corinthians 14 where he says, if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who will prepare himself for the battle? And really referring to the battle of Judgment Day. And so the Lord made sure that the trumpet, and the trumpet is the declaration of the word of God, the trumpet was certain. It gave a certain sound. The Bible guarantees it. May 21, 2011, Judgment Day, exclamation point. And there was no mistaking the proclamation. People never said that before. They never said that. And here it was being declared on billboards and buses and taxis and tracks and shirts and everything else all over the world. And the news media was repeating it. And so God warned the world. He warned the world, and he used that to save a great multitude. And then he did what he said he was going to do. He shut the door. Now, it was our error to think that, how Judgment Day would work out. We were wrong thinking it'll be physical, great earthquake. We were wrong about the duration of a literal 5 months. Yet, as far as the core message, Judgment Day, that was correct. And it had to be because leading up to then was the time that Zephaniah is talking about, before the day come. You seek me before, and God wanted everyone to know you had to do it. You had to come to him before May 21. And now afterward, like Luke 13 says, when once the master of the house has risen up and has shut to the door, well then, many will seek to enter in after that. But if you continue reading in Luke 13, the door does not open.
Now, I had a question. In light of the fact that it says that many will seek to enter, so the many were on the wide gate, and now it doesn't appear like the wide gate's even in view, maybe because it led to destruction. But now they're trying to seek to enter into the straight gate. Does that mean that maybe because I was thinking about this, like a lot of churches have taught, to get to become saved, you accept Jesus, like all those lies that were taught. And if Satan has been bound on May 21, just like he was bound at the cross, it says that he should deceive the nations no more. I'm wondering if he was bound on May 21, that maybe part of that deception was like lifted. And so would it be that they're kind of seeing that it was like a lie the whole time? Would they come to a realization that they could never accept Jesus?
I don't think the Bible uses the language that he was bound. Well, maybe.
Remember, it says the stronger man.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah, remember
strong
in
man.
every kingdom
You must first bind the
binds
strong man. That
right.
I was going to say it tells us he's deposed. It tells us he's dead. Although it's a figure of speech, he still exists until the literal last day. It tells us he's lost all authority, but yeah, it very much could be um, where in the context we read of a house divided, a kingdom divided cannot stand. We find reference to the binding of the strong man and by a stronger than he. And then in Revelation 18, in the chapter where we read Babylon is fallen, it says that they're standing afar off and watching the city burn. Strong is the Lord God that judgeth her. So the stronger than he is in view with the fall of Babylon. Um, and so that would definitely relate to the great multitude, that will come as we read in Isaiah 60 and Revelation 21. They'll bring their glory and honor into the city. And yeah, it could perhaps, um, you know, I know a lot of people are disappointed in the church, and they should be. A lot of people, um, they, uh, the church, the church is an institution that's a corrupt institution, just like all the world's institutions are corrupt institutions. And God just began judging um, the corruption with the church. Judgment began at the house of God and has transitioned, and the people of the world are seeing the corruption of religion in general. They're seeing the corruption of all the various worldly institutions, the justice system or the um, educational system, the scientific community. They're noticing these things, and so yeah, it would be in keeping, because actually the church is part of the world, and God is exposing all the world's religions. Over these years, the religion of Islam
Mhm.
has its adherents doing such horrible things, has cast it in a bad light, and many people are disinterested in it because of it. And same with the church. There's still corruption in the church, but I don't know. I don't know how that would work out.
Well, I was thinking that if the many identify with the people that were on the path to destruction, something would it appears something would have to happen for them to want to seek the correct path. And so I was
Yeah.
thinking, well, a lot of people believe the lie of accepting Jesus. And so if that lie were to be exposed, like how God is exposing the lies of, the news media and all the other institutions,
Mhm.
you would think if maybe they all of a sudden see, or not all of a sudden, but maybe they realize, oh, that was a lie. Now I know how to seek the correct way.
Well, there's
So
an awful lot of lies. There's
yeah.
the charismatic movement, which is a huge lie, the tongues, and um, so I don't know. I don't know. It could be the many who are called, few chosen, and that would more identify with those in the churches, or could be many traveling the broad way that leads to destruction, which is basically everyone but the elect, as they're going various religions and false gospels or secular ways. It all leads to destruction. But it does indicate there's a switch, there's a change. If you read uh, uh, 7, Matthew 7's account, um, you know, uh, where it speaks of the narrow way, few there be that find it, and the broad way, many go therein, or they're at. And carefully reading Luke 13:24, let's just read that again in case someone missed it. In Luke 13:24, strive to enter in at the straight gate. Okay. And I'll go back to Matthew 7. Matthew 7 says, verse 13, enter ye in at the straight gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat, because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. So clearly distinguishing, many go broad way, few go narrow way of the straight gate. And here, strive to enter in, Luke 13:24, strive to enter in at the straight gate, for many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. There, no mention of the broad way or the wide gate. It's the straight gate. And here, many will seek to enter in. When will many seek to enter in? When once the master of the house has risen up and has shut to the door. After the door shut is when many will seek to enter in. And on one hand, that can be understood, just people who are trying to insist it's still the day of salvation. We do have some former true believers, family radio listeners, and they're still talking like it's any old day of the past. Nothing's changed. Still the day of salvation, and they're trying to enter in. They're trying to enter in, and that's not anyone trying to enter in is they're not in good company. After according to what Luke 13 saying.
Now, you said that's one way to look, but would the other way be that there is somewhat of an understanding, because it does say they're knocking at the door, which seems to indicate they found the correct door, or Christ is the door. And so if they're striving to enter into the straight gate, isn't that the correct way to seek after Christ?
Yeah, normally the gate is determined by the gospel, by the truth, right? It's the way of Christ, the narrow way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And that those three things were true of the narrow way. It was the way of the Bible, it was the truth, and it led to life. And so, yeah, it would, I think, indicate they're coming to some kind of understanding or recognition. Okay, this is the truth.
Now, one last thing, if you don't mind, when in Revelations, when Satan was bound for the first time at the cross, it says that he should deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years are finished. So it almost seems to indicate that
He did deceive the nations
deceive
over
the
the Great
nations,
Tribulation. Yeah, the 23 years.
right? Which means that the binding, he wasn't deceiving the nations when he was bound from the cross until 1988, because it says that he should deceive the nations no more until he was loosed. And so
Yeah,
does that
that would fit in with the whole idea of law coming to the world, Bible law, and many nations benefited, and civilization sprang up. People were putting away their idols, putting away their witchcraft, their, you know, not everyone, but
right?
it was a huge change from all previous history, when the gospel went via the churches into the nations, and then at the end of the church, he's loosed, and he gathers, he's Gog, he gathers Magog, and they come against the camp of the saints, and there's like a ignorance, a blindness of understanding that comes upon the world. But, here we are into the day of judgment, and that ignorance of understanding seemed to be increasing with,
Yeah.
all the gender ideology and stuff, all the, all the things that a lot of nations were going after. That was just an increase. So that would be a problem.
Yeah, so I was
In
guessing, I was
trying to
thinking that
understand
maybe,
those kind of things.
yeah, so if he was
Mhm.
bound on May 21, but also that deception, but then at the same time, a lot of people don't trust a lot of institutions. Maybe that's where you think maybe that's where the deception's being lifted, where they once
Uh,
trusted it, but now they're not distrusting it.
we know that, that Christ is judging the world. He's ruling, and he's punishing the inhabitants of the world. And part of the punishment is allowing sin to multiply, to increase the darkness, it's really darkened understanding, darkened, it's not having a right understanding to the point where, someone doesn't know if they're a man or a woman, or all that kind of stuff. But we have come to the end of our time tonight. Thank you for your question. I'd like to thank everyone for sharing your questions and comments, and especially the Bible verses we had a chance to read or consider. Lord willing, we'll have another open forum tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Eastern. We hope you can join us then. But for now, may you have a good night, and may the Lord's perfect will be done.
Thanks again for joining us for E-Bible Fellowship's live open forum program. You can call in with your Bible questions Monday through Friday beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and Sundays beginning at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, may the Lord's perfect will be done.